inside of me, I just knew I was going to make music and it was going to happen and I was going to sign a deal. And, you know, I just didn't know the path. I had no idea how it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I knew that's David Bowie. Nah. I get off stage, go to my dressing room. Well, he's there. He's in my dressing room. And David was like, that was great. Yeah, like a little Aretha. Little Aretha, that's what I'm going to call you, Little Aretha. And I was like, like gobbledygook, just floored.
Hello and welcome to Shaping Success, a brand new and very exciting podcast from Simply Be, all about women at the top of their game with me, Fleur East. As a singer and broadcaster, I'm inspired by women who push boundaries, women who have carved a different path to society's stereotypes, women who refuse to fit in. And I want to find out who and what shaped their journey to success. So, in this podcast series, I'm joined by female icons from all walks of life to talk about their inspirations, heroes, and the moments that changed them. We'll hear from some of the biggest female names and the ones you might know less about as they share their remarkable stories of determination and dedication and reveal the moments and icons that have shaped them along the way. Ultimately, our guests all have one thing in common. They're killing it. So let's meet them. With a career spanning more than 25 years in the music industry, today's guest is undoubtedly an essential part of the British entertainment landscape. A singer, musical theatre performer and presenter, Beverly Knight first made a name for herself as one of Britain's greatest soul singers. Never one to stand still, as her music career reached dizzying heights, she pivoted towards stage acting and has performed in some of UK's most high-profile West End productions ever since. Amongst her many accolades, this year she won an Olivier for her latest performance as the redoubtable suffragette Emmeline Pankhurst in a radical new musical mixing hip-hop, R&B and funk at the Old Vic in London. And with a new album coming out very soon, she certainly isn't slowing down. If the next 25 years of her career are anything like the first, there's no limit to where she can go. Welcome to Shaping Success, Beverly Knight.
Hello, God, that was the intro. Oh my God.
I mean, 25 years though.
I know, and it's actually next year will be 30 years.
What?
So it's been a minute.
And you still look 30, so I don't understand how you've been in the industry that long.
Listen, I'm trying. It's avocados. It's vitamin E.
Is that what it is? I need to order some avocados now. I want to know how it all started for you.
So start at the very beginning. Very good place to start. I was spotted. Old school, like seriously old school vibes. I was in a club opening for a recording artist who had a hit at the time. The party was being thrown by a community radio station, brackets pirate, my local one in Wolverhampton. The guy who I was warming up for, artist called Sinclair, he brought his A&R man with him, lovely guy called Mark Sher, and heard me and everything, beckoned me over and said, oh, would you be interested in a career in music and that? And I said, yeah, absolutely. They said, well, we'd like you to come down to London, you know, talk it through. Basically, they wanted to offer me a deal, Mark did. And my response was, well, I'm about to go to uni and I think I'm pretty good. And if you think I'm good, then you'll hang on for me, won't you? And you know, they hung on for me.
Did they?
They waited. So in the last year of uni, which was 94, I signed my deal and put out my first single. I hadn't even finished uni, but yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It all happened in 94. Mad.
That is so surprising to hear because a lot of the time, I mean, you were at a crossroads really at that point because you could have gone one of two ways. And the majority of the time you'd think, well, if you want to sing, you'd go and get the record deal.
Yeah.
Why was it so important to you to carry on with your studies?
2 words. Jamaican parents.
Okay.
Listen, there was no way. I mean, to be honest, I say Jamaican parents. My mum and dad would have been heartbroken if I hadn't gone to uni. But I was also a nerd. I still am a nerd. I wanted to study, so important to me, you know, getting my degree, that higher education thing. I'd grafted so hard.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to give that up. But I knew, it's funny. Inside of me, I just knew I was going to make music and it was going to happen and I was going to sign a deal. And, you know, I just didn't know the path. I had no idea how it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I knew. So for me, it wasn't so much turning down a record deal.
Right.
It was just, I'm postponing it. I'm deferring it. Like you defer, you know, your
studies or your uni
studies.
year or whatever.
I'm going to defer it for a bit. But I was absolutely rock solid confident. And so when they came back in my third and final year, I hope this doesn't sound like I'm being, you know, like I'm full of hubris, but I was like, yes, that's right. You came back. Good.
Yeah.
Right, now let's start.
And that's before
Just mad.
anything had happened. And you were just like,
Before
yeah.
a thing had happened.
What did you study at uni?
This is the jokes. So, religion, theology,
Okay.
and the philosophy of religion, and then my minor was performance arts.
The
Yeah.
minor was performance
The
arts.
minor was performance arts. I thought I needed to just keep that in my back pocket.
Was that like your family background? Is that why you wanted to study religion? What kind
I
of
think
led you?
so. My family background and just the diversity of religion
Yeah.
itself in Wolverhampton. You got everyone, you know, Sikhs, the huge Sikh community, which I'd grown up, you know, literally shoulder to shoulder with. My own background coming from a strict Pentecostal Christian household, you know. And I was just so fascinated by religion. Why do you think that? But my family think this.
Yeah.
You know, it just fascinated me and always had. So I took it to uni.
So interesting.
really
I never
cool.
would have expected you to tell me that.
Yeah.
Today.
I know, mad.
So you grew up in a Pentecostal like church. That's where you went when you were growing up. Did you sing in church as well?
From birth. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, did we sing? Oh, my God. So my mum sang in church. My dad sang in church. And my older sister, when she was old enough to sing, also sang. And the kind of watershed moment for me was Mum and her singing partner, Sister Gloria Adams.
Yes, Sister Gloria.
Sister Gloria Adams. Although being Jamaican, we all called her Sally because Jamaicans have two names.
It's either Sally or Gloria. Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's an entire new podcast about
Amazing.
Jamaicans and their two names, but not today. So they sang and my sister joined them, but I'm sat in the congregation like, what about me?
Hello?
I was only 4.
Oh my
But I was like,
gosh.
what about me? So eventually I had my chance to sing and 4-year-old me squeaking out these notes. But it was quite obvious that I was going to be a singer.
Oh.
So the minister at the time was like, well, Sister Beverly's clearly going to sing. She's got to sing for the Lord. So I was always called on to sing. And then I joined the choir and then I led the choir. And my life in music started from the pulpit.
Yeah, and your parents were musical, so it just naturally kind of passed on to you.
Yeah. I mean, going back generations with my mum's side, all the way back, my great-grandparents and probably beyond. Wow. Yeah.
Mate, it's in the bloodline.
It really
It was always going to
is.
happen.
Yeah.
Is that why you
always.
think you were so confident that you were going to sing? Like you just knew? Was that the reason?
I was a confident child. I was that kid, you know. Show off.
Yeah, I read that you actually said you were the mouthiest one of you and your siblings.
By far. I had no fear of the stage. I had no fear of audiences. Like my mum sang, but she sang because of her Christian convictions, just like my dad, not because they were, you know, they wanted any kind of career in it or anything like that. My mum was a nurse, you know, good old NHS. My dad was a builder. but they just sang because they loved it, and the church gave them that outlet, and they could sing to the Lord. Me, I wanted to be on top of the pops, but I was just supremely confident in my ability to sing.
I want to know what it was like, because you grew up in Britain, like in the 1970s, and you were like starting a career. What was it like back then, trying to hustle and make it into the industry?
Well, Britain, oh, bless her, she's come a long way. She's got a long way to go. Bless. When I was a kid singing, and my brother, you know, after me, just some of the things that I saw him go through, and me as his older sister, and then my sister looking out for the two of us. Yeah, Britain was tricky. It was a tricky place. We were the first of our generation to be born in Britain. My mum and dad had to, despite travelling on a British passport, they had to go through the whole becoming British citizens, you know, the naturalisation thing, because the law changed in 1981, which said that if they didn't become British citizens, we could be flung out the country as being aliens, even though we were born there. And anyway, just a strange time. And that was reflected in the populace at the time. You know, being black and kind of hanging on to your Jamaican heritage, but being absolutely 100% British, but not English because you didn't have parents who were English, was a weird thing, you know, that code switching thing that we talk about, where you walk into this door and you're British with your English friends, and you walk into that door and you're very much a Jamaican. But the constant in my life was the music. That was a thing that kept me focused, sane, joyful, happy. And around me, the wider environs, I remember the birth of heavy metal, you know, coming out of Birmingham. And all these heavy metal bands, and Sabbath, and, you know, before them was Led Zeppelin, you know, heavy music. And so there was a music scene, but it wasn't necessarily the scene that I was going to be a part of. Can you imagine me as a heavy metal singer? No. But there was very much music in the soil, in you know, the West Midlands in general. So heavy metal came out of Brum, two-tone came out of Coventry, Selector and The Beat and all these fab bands. And Wolverhampton kind of was part and parcel of all of that. The reason I mention my Jamaican heritage is because the Jamaican community, the West Indian community, had such an impact on Britain at that time that it just changed the face of music in Britain, and being made in Britain forever influenced the punks and everything. And little me, I grew up with all of this as my backdrop. And then from the US comes the early days of hip hop and all the soul and the R&B. So I grew up in this melting pot of music. We had Radio 1, Radio 2, but then we had our local radio, which was Beacon Radio, and Radio WM, which was a BBC radio station.
And then you had your pirate radio station.
And then I had my pirate radio station, and that, you know, in the late 80s. So music was, you had this huge expanse of music squeezed into very few outlets. But the good thing was, it meant I heard everything. You had tribes, but when you put on the radio wasn't so tribal because it had to reflect everything. So I heard everything, and all of this kind of went into my body and into my brain and began to shape my musical direction.
That's what I was going to ask. How did it influence your musical style?
Huge. I mean, the best thing that radio ever did to me or did for me, was introduce me to Prince. Hearing 1999 for the first time just took my head off my shoulders. That was it. Prince fan forever. That was me. But it had such an influence. I would listen to the Pointer Sisters next to Shalimar, next to David Bowie, next to Duran Duran, next to early Wham, and, you know, and Eddie Grant.
Yeah.
I mean, we had so much, and it was, you'd never put them on one playlist, but that was our life. Wow. That was what we had. We used to tape the songs off the radio. You'd sit there waiting for the DJ to just shut
stop
up.
talking.
Shut up. Press play and record now to get the song. And then quick, you got to press stop before he comes back in. Stop. Wow. We made our own mixtapes like that.
It's interesting because within all the influences, you mentioned Prince, who later on in your career asked you to go on tour with him.
Yeah, well, I did.
Right.
I did a residency with him, yeah.
I mean, what? And
Madness.
then you also mentioned David Bowie, who was a huge supporter of yours.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. How did that even happen?
Oh, my God. When I think of my career and think of the people who have been so kind enough to allow me into their space, I'm like, how has this happened? David Bowie. I was working on album number 2 and did a gig at the Jazz Cafe, and I had management. They were brand new at the time. And what I didn't know or didn't appreciate is that they were looking after David Bowie's PR. And they had spoken to David Bowie about this singer. Oh, you know, she's really good and da-da-da. Well, he'd invited himself to come and see me perform. I didn't know.
As if that happens.
As if. So I'm at the Jazz Cafe and I'm singing away and I'm doing my thing and I happen to just be looking around. That's David Bowie. Nah, could never be. But I knew it was because Iman was next to him.
Oh my gosh.
And you're not going to miss Iman anywhere.
No.
Because the queen of all things are just stunning. So I'm singing, I'm looking, I'm singing, and I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, like this. I get off stage, finish, go to my dressing room. Well, he's there. He's in my dressing room. And Iman's like, darling, it was so amazing. Worst accent ever. But
I'm there with you. I'm still in it. I'm in the story.
You're in the story. And David was like, that was great. Yeah, like a little Aretha. Little Aretha. That's what I'm going to call you. Little Aretha. And I was like gobbledygook, just floored. And he talked about me in interviews and to his record label, which I think was Virgin at the time. And just because of his interest, people were interested in me. So he really helped to bring that kind of mainstream, kind of curiosity as to who this new singer from a place we don't know, apart from the football team, who is she? I mean, amazing. And with Prince, that was pure manifestation. I was like, one day I'd look at my posters in my room and go, well, I'm going to meet you one day. You don't meet you one day. You don't know, but you're going to know. I honestly manifested it. It's a long story. But the first time I met him was at the Mermaid Theatre at Blackfriars. He was over because he was promoting an EP. Okay. And I was in the audience at the end of the show, and he was just jamming. He got loads of people up on stage. I was one of them. So my life was made. Yeah. Got off stage. Security took me by the hand. I'm like, where am I going? Why have you got hold of me? Take me around the back. Beverley Knight, this is Prince. I was like, oh my God. So I meet him really briefly. Then I see him again really briefly at a show that was being made in Newcastle called the Millennium Tube. It was the Tube, but a special Millennium broadcast. And he had my album. So I was like,
what is happening?
I've met Prince and he's got my album. Oh my God. Fast forward years later, I get a phone call to say Prince wants you to open for him at the O2. He's doing a record-breaking run at the O2, but he wants you to open for him. Me and, there's other people as well. And I was like, yes. I already had tickets for a few shows.
Oh, did you?
Oh, God, yeah. I spent my money on Prince, my God. So I had tickets, but I did the show. The first show I did was 1st of September. I always remember it. Did my thing, came off stage, and he grabbed me, literally grabbed my left arm, the details, grabbed my left arm and said, I want you to do the after show with me. It's going to be just over there at the Indigo Club.
Yeah.
And I was like, absolutely. So I did that, opened for him, and while I was playing Keep This Fire Burning, which is really easy, it's 2 chords, just a really simple kind of not 4/4, but like a stomp kind of groove, I hear this other guitar going on. I'm like, who is that? That is some guitar. Oh my God, it can't be. Prince walks out playing guitar to Keep This Fire Burning, and I've got to keep singing.
Oh
my guitarist is like...
yeah, trying to keep up.
We're all like, this can't be happening. The crowd who are there, absolutely go mental.
Wow.
I'm trying to hold it together.
Oh my gosh.
And that was the first of me singing with him. Yeah, I mean,
that is a dream come true.
It was a dream come true. It made me want to shout from the rooftops, guys, if you have a dream, believe in that dream. Manifest that dream, because I'm telling you, it works. It worked for me.
Yeah.
Because I could not have written that. I couldn't have written it. I wanted it to happen more than life itself, but the way it happened, couldn't have written that at all. And it just, I began to preach the gospel, if you like, of getting people to really get behind their dreams and never let go of them, because one day, sooner or later, in a way you don't even realise, that's going to happen for you.
I mean, you've had so many magical moments in your career, in your life. I mean, this podcast is all about finding out about these moments that have helped shape you. And I mean, I could refer to so many, but one that I'm going to refer to is 2013.
Right.
When you played Rachel Marin. This was your West End debut in The Bodyguard at the Adelphi Theatre.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because up until that point, you were established in the music industry, you've done so many things. I mean, you're with Prince, David Bowie is telling everyone you're incredible. And the next thing, you step into the world of musical theatre.
Yes.
What was that like?
That came about because I'd hit a point in my career where I thought I could do another album, yes, but, I want, there's something else out there. There's something more. And while I was in this kind of state of flux in my own head, a script arrived, but it was for a musical called Memphis. They didn't have a theatre or anything, but they just wanted to have the lead female signed up, so they could more easily sell it into a theatre. And this came via Lenny Henry and his partner, Lisa Makin. Just having that script, being sent that script, flicked a switch in my head. A couple of weeks later, I'm scrolling through Twitter, I kid you not, Twitter, and my eye sees a tweet, oh, cast change for The Bodyguard is imminent. I'm like, cast change? Oh, all the lingo, I didn't even know the lingo.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, so they're obviously looking for new members to join the cast. Well, I know that story. I know the film. I know the songs. I know exactly the kind of character Rachel Marin was, diva, blah, blah, blah. I reckon I could do that. I've got enough acting ability, I think, I'd like to give it a shot. And so I told management, I was kind of put in front of the director, given a scene to read the scene, sang a bit of a song, you've got the role.
What, it was just instant?
Just from me looking at the tweet to getting the role was 2 weeks.
Wow.
So I was like, yes. Oh my God, I've got the role.
I'm doing it, yeah.
This isn't the Wolverhampton Grand Theatre. Do you know what I mean? I was like,
Come a long way from the
oh
Wolverhampton Grand
Lord.
Theatre.
I'm like, this is the West End. This is proper acting.
Yeah.
Can I do it? I thought, I don't know if I can do it. Oh my God, but I thought, too late now. I've got to,
Yeah,
I've got to
there,
do
like,
it.
It's
Gotta
happening.
do it.
You've been cast. Like,
Exactly.
There's nothing stopping you.
I did it for almost a year. And during that year, Memphis became available, the theatre. And so I left the Bodyguard. I went straight into rehearsals for Memphis, which again was so well received and so critically acclaimed. And that kind of got people going, oh, okay, this isn't just a singer playing a singer, you know, in this particular setting. Yeah. This is someone who's got some acting ability, because Memphis required a bit more from me. So much so that they, you know, nominated me for an Olivier, which you can't imagine how shocked I was. Shocked. And it just kept going. It was role after role after role. And I thought, I guess this is me for the foreseeable then, you know, as well as music. So the two have coexisted ever since.
This is so interesting because you've had so many different careers almost. Do you know what I mean? It's like now you're like so well known in the West End world.
Which is mad, because I look in the mirror and I just see Bev, you know, Bev from Wolverhampton. But I initially see the singer, you know, and then I'm like, oh yeah, and I act as well. But seeing these younger people who are starting off in their journey saying, oh, I looked up to you as an inspiration. I'm like, hey, where? You know, and I've done this 10 years. So if these kids, and a lot of them are young, if they're like 18, they know me primarily as an actress.
Exactly.
You
That's
know,
what I found really interesting.
And I was like, oh my God. Whereas people who were, you know, my generation and a little bit younger and you know, definitely older, think of me as Beverly Knight, the singer.
Yes.
And have to be reminded, oh, she's done some acting as well. So it's very, very strange, and in the best possible way.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, you know, that I'm different things to different folk.
I want to know now something maybe that people don't know about.
Yeah.
Maybe something like, because we like to keep it real, so people know about the struggle.
Yeah.
Something that maybe wasn't so positive that happened to you, a moment that helped define and shape who you are.
Oh, no problem. God. There's been a few. There was the moment where I released the album Affirmation. Who I Am was album number 3 in my life, and the second album for Parlophone Records. So it was the third for them, fourth for me. And it had come off the back of Shoulda, Woulda, Coulda been this massive international hit, and you know, and the album had done really well and platinum and And then Affirmation drops and the first single is Come As You Are. And I thought, naively, foolishly, that because I had had this degree of success, that I was now free to give weight to my artistic expression. You know, the music I was doing was soul music, but it wasn't a narrowly defined soul music. I thought I could broaden it even further. So Come As You Are comes out, and to me it sounded like Sly and the Family Stone or the Isley Brothers, because it had this kind of driving guitar and this stomp in the chorus, which for me was a lift from Dance to the Music by Sly and the Family Stone. Well, the R&B and soul and, you know, the urban community, they didn't hear that. They heard something else. They heard selling out. That's what they heard.
Okay.
Oh, she's abandoned her soul roots. I'm like, but this has come from soul. It's the same thing. It's just got a bit more guitar on it. I don't understand. Because in my naivety, in the way that Prince was multi-genred, but he was one genre, the genre of Prince, I thought I could embrace slightly different sounds, but it was all my sound. Well, I could, but they weren't happy, you know, at all. So the reviews for it came from that community, and they trashed it, and they trashed the song. The song went top 5, so it was a massive, massive hit. Despite all of that, and then because people thought that the whole album was going to be like that, you know, people didn't even want to listen to the album, Affirmation. So based on Come As You Are, the reviews were just like really, really not nice. And then at the time, you know, this is pre-social media, so the public can't tell you directly what they think. I think the whole world hates my album because all I'm reading is vacuous, this, that, and the other. I'd written a song about the death of my best friend, you know, 2 songs on there, but people were using words like vacuous and, you know, forgettable, and words that were like, you know. And this phrase, you know, selling out, that was coming specifically from the urban community. And it began a real disconnect that took years to repair between me and that community. Because the next thing I did, but I did it and I had no regrets, was I spoke up about homophobic lyrics in dancehall, which was seen as a betrayal of my Jamaican heritage and my Jamaican roots. But, you know, I'm an LGBTQIA ally to my core and to the last breath, you know, and I wasn't prepared to back down on that. But that was yet another thing. So this kind of chasm opens up between me and them. And that was hard. That was hard. I found myself going on kind of specialist radio stations, you know, niche radio stations, because that whole digital thing had just begun to open up. Defending myself, defending my artistic choices, and defending myself against, you know, standing up for the LGBTQ community, which I found bizarre. And it was only then when I realized, you know, the music industry is pretty myopic in some areas. That taught me a lesson. How much strength do you have? How much resilience do you have? Because it's in those moments that you really find out who you are and how much you've got in your, you know, in your tank. And it turns out that I had a lot of self-belief, thank God, because I stood and faced it off. I was like, I know you guys hate me. There was one magazine that said, we will never, ever write about her again, ever. But I stood firm in my belief, going back to what we talked about, this belief, this innate confidence, this belief that they would all come round to my way of thinking. They don't think it now, but one day they will come round to where I am. And that took about a decade.
Whoa.
A good decade. So when I think of today, you know, you have people like Sam Smith who stands in their truth, and, you know, you got Emanike, people who the industry would have thrown under a bus at one point. You know, Little Nas X, never in your born days, you know. But these guys are here and they're living their truth and they're free to do their art, and it's fantastic. And I'd like to think that little old me and people like me who refused to back down helped to make that happen and helped to broaden the scope of music. Afro-punk is a thing,
exactly.
You know?
Yeah. You've spoken a lot about Prince being a huge influence in your life.
Yeah.
David Bowie. I mean, you even had the privilege of working with these people, meeting them. What about in your own personal life? Is there one person you can think of in your personal life that has impacted you in a big way?
There was a man who really believed in me and believed in all the kids, but really, really helped to kind of, and he didn't know it, but really kind of helped me have the technical tools that one needs that I carry to this day. And that was my music teacher, Mr. Regler, Mr. John Regler. Still call him Sir. I'm trying not to, but it's a habit of a lifetime. John Regler, he came into our school a little later on, kind of when I was about 13. I'd had another music teacher. He had left. Mr. Regler came in, and he just had a really cool and fresh approach. He was no joke. You didn't mess about with him, but he loved music. He was passionate about music, and the way he taught it reflected his passion. And he let us kids grab whatever instruments we wanted to. Well, I always would gravitate towards the piano because that's what I played badly, but never mind, enough to write my songs. And the thing that I always remember about him was this one specific lesson. He taught us a piece of music which was one melody line, but the kind of the rest of the instrumentation around it would change, but the melody itself never changed, and it would just repeat and repeat and repeat. It's a classical piece from, I think, the 17th century. I'll hum a bit. It went and it goes over and over again. But what happens around it is different.
Right.
That moment was when the light bulb switched on and I understood what a producer does. He didn't know he was teaching me, this kid who's one of many kids in the class, about the rudiments of production. But because of what he was saying, I understood it. So there's this piece of music. If you put a slow beat behind it, it becomes a ballad. If you put a fast beat behind it, it's a disco song. You know what I mean? If you change a couple of notes, and make it sound more happy, it's a joyful sounding song, but it was quite mournful because it had these minor notes. You can dress songs up. This melody was the mannequin and the production is the clothes.
Yeah.
And it just was like, I don't know, it was like I was seeing colour.
Yeah.
And I understood it. And that lesson and that man set me on a path of understanding how I was going to approach my own music and my own production and my own arrangements when it came to my own songwriting.
Wow.
He didn't know it until years later. He would always come to see me in my shows, God bless him. And I had the chance to sit him down backstage, and I took his hand and I said, Mr. Regler, John, let me tell you, do you remember that class? And I had to sing the song because he's retired now. And I sang it to him and I said, do you remember that lesson you taught us? He's looking at me like, you are smoking crack. I don't even know what you're talking about. So I reminded him.
Yeah.
And I reminded him of him teaching us how a melody can be happy if you change that note, and a melody can be sad if you do this, and how the production makes it sound like springtime, and how this production makes it sound like winter, and how... I said, you taught me about production. You didn't know it, but that is what you were teaching me. Bless him, he started to cry.
Oh.
Because he hadn't realised the influence that he had had on my career. It was huge. It was a huge moment for me. He was a special one. And then on top of that, all the kind of technical things about singing, the shoulders back, the head being raised so you can sing to the back of the room, and breathing from the diaphragm. Come on, Beverly, I know you've got that breath. Come on. Breathing from there and holding a note, enunciating, and having that diction of all the words and all these things which I'd never thought about. But he gave those tools to me, which I have to this day. Thank you, Mr. Regular.
Big
John.
up Mr. Regular. Mr. Regular. John.
John,
JR. Big up
JR in the building. I tell you.
I've loved talking to you today.
Really?
Because I just feel like...
I chat a lot, don't I?
But I just love it all. I could
Chat
stay
a lot.
here for like a whole other day talking to you. Because you've got to see the music industry through so many different periods, so many different times. You've almost had so many careers over this time, 30 years in the industry.
Yeah.
And you're still here today. And the thing that I've taken away from it is always work on your craft.
Correct.
Because for all the years that you were doing the groundwork, like you said, you didn't even know what you were preparing for.
No
but
idea.
Then each time the opportunities came to you, you had the tools.
Yeah.
And the second thing I've learned is that you really need to have that self-belief. Because through every part of your life and in every story, you've had this unwavering confidence.
Yes.
And you've always just been like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Bodyguard, yeah, I'm going to be in that. Prince, yeah, I know your catalogue. Let's go. Like, you've never doubted yourself along the way. And that's why you're still sitting here. So thank you for sharing all of this knowledge with me today.
It's an absolute pleasure. I hope, I pray that there's someone watching this who can draw from that and know that if you just really dig deep and believe and don't waver, be resilient and persistent, and keep working. Eventually, it'll work for you in your favour.
You've got a new album coming out. Yes. Tell me about it.
It's called The Fifth Chapter because chapter 5 in my career. If every 10 years is a chapter, then I'm on number 5. And it's out on the 29th of September. It's a broad church of soul, R&B, gospel, funk.
Yes.
It's all there. All the flavours are there. And I am so excited about it.
You're speaking my language. I can't wait. What are your socials that we can follow you on?
Oh, God. Everything's simple for me. Beverly Knight. It's just at Beverly Knight for everything. Beverley, because we're English, we're not American. I am not a shopping mall. I am not a hill in Los Angeles. Beverly Knight.
And I'm sure we'll see you on another chat like this in another 25 years.
Absolutely correct. That is
correct.
That's right. That's the plan. I'll be 75 and I'll still be singing.
You will.
Something.
I have no doubt. Your confidence is rubbing off on me. I believe it.
Good.
Thank you so much, Beverly.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Shaping Success, a Simply Be podcast. If you like what you've heard, please give us a follow and a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. Shaping Success is a Folding Pocket production.